Chapter 1. After Finding Mother. As soon as Jerome and I felt comfortable that we had indeed found our missing mother, we decided to share our news with our other siblings. Jerome informed Grayson of the news while I told Terrence. That night when I told my two children that I had finally found my mother, their grandmother, I could barely keep my emotions at bay. My daughter could not believe I had found her after all of those years. She was extremely happy for me, but she had gotten used to not having a maternal grandmother, so she did not feel the need to go and unite with her immediately. My son was shocked, too. "That's amazing," he said. He was very joyful for me, but, like my daughter, he did not feel a connection with his newly found grandmother. So he did not have a deep interest in rushing to meet her either. I understood where they both stood. However, it was eye-opening to witness my children not sharing the same endearment towards my mother as I felt. I was ready to go to her right away. I had waited 49 years and did not want to wait one more minute longer. I considered renting a car and driving out of town immediately that very night or early the next morning, basically as fast as humanly possible. When I informed my daughter, son, and brother Terrence of my intent to travel right away, they each warned me of a winter storm warning in the area where my mother lives and encouraged me not to drive. I felt frustrated. I had finally found my mother. Now here was yet another obstacle to overcome. They suggested I should take a plane instead, since it would get me there quicker anyway. Driving would be a 17-plus hour drive, while the plane would only be a 3-hour trip. I took heed of their warnings and decided to wait until after the foul weather had passed. During my wait, I made up my mind that I was going to travel there by plane. There was only one problem. Purchasing a plane ticket at such a short notice would be expensive. Excited about me finally finding my mother, my daughter paid all my expenses to reunite with her, which included my plane ticket. "Let me know if you need anything else," she told me. Due to the winter storm warning, I was left in limbo wondering what day would be the best day to travel. Realizing I could not leave immediately and that I would be traveling by plane, my brothers and I discussed the possibility of traveling together. The big question for me was, when can we leave? I only got a couple of hours of sleep that night, worrying about how soon I would be able to get out of town to see my mother. The next morning, I received a group text from Jerome suggesting we leave that upcoming Thursday, March 8th, and return on Sunday, March 11th. His text put me at ease. It put us all on the same page. I was able to calm down knowing we would all be together during this very emotional experience. I texted him back informing him that, "This sounds good to me." We discussed our plans by text and phone until we finally agreed on the details of our flight, hotel, and rental car. From the afternoon of March 3rd until the morning of March 8th, I eagerly awaited the moment that my brothers and I would finally board the plane. Ironically, on March 5th, I received an email from the private detective that I had contacted just days before I had found my mother. I had told him of my failed attempts to find my mother and asked if maybe he could help me find my siblings. Well, in his email, he asked me if I would still like for him to look into finding my siblings and possibly even my mother. He said he was willing to put some time into the matter but can't guarantee anything. He said he believed he had some solid leads and all I had to do was to give him a few $100s to get started. Feeling as if he was trying to take advantage of me, I was happy to respond to his email, letting him know I had already found my mother and that I was preparing to go out of town to reunite with her. The night before the trip, I packed everything I needed. I also packed some pictures. I found it difficult to choose among my photos, and I wondered how many would be enough. At first, I thought I would only take some pictures of my two children and myself. Then I decided to throw in a few more of my father, brothers, and sisters and their children. I did not think I would need all of those. I just felt it would be better to have too many than not enough. After I was all packed, I took a shower and put on the outfit I was going to wear. I woke up at 2 o'clock the next morning and put my suitcase in my car. By 3 o'clock, I was driving to my brother Terrence's house to ride with him to the airport. When we arrived at his house, he took my suitcase out of my car and put it in his truck. We drove to pick up our other brother, Grayson, so we could all ride together to the airport. We pulled up at Grayson's home, and Terrence got out of the truck and helped him put his suitcases in the back. Finally, we were on our way to the airport. My third brother, Jerome, was traveling from another state. He was going to meet us there. After takeoff, our plane flew from Kansas City to a connecting flight. While we were in the air, I remembered how my father would say, "If you all ever want to look for her, I will take you, but she may not receive you all." Therefore, I had no idea what to expect or if she would even talk to us. However, there was one thing I knew, that I was extremely excited. I felt that however things went down, I would be satisfied just for having found her. We were sitting on the plane after landing at the connecting airport. I was in between Terrence and Grayson. We were feeling restless, eager, and somewhat fearful of what was to come when we finally reached our destination. As we waited for permission to get off the plane, I pulled out my phone and began recording a video of myself talking about how I was feeling at that moment. I stated, "I am very tired and anxious, yet nervous." I was feeling zealous as I awaited the moment that our travel would finally come to an end, resulting with us being in the presence of our dear mother. "Are you all okay with being on camera?" I asked my brothers. "Yes, that is fine," Terrence replied. Grayson felt a little shy as he laughed. "Oh, go ahead, I don't mind." "So how are you guys feeling right now?" I asked. Terrence was sitting on my left, so I aimed my camera phone towards his face first. Looking into the camera, he said, "I'm ready to be finished flying." Then I turned to my right. Grayson stated, "I'm tired and sleepy, but I'm ready to see my mom." I felt anxious to get off the plane and board the next plane. When we got off the plane for our layover, we were all hungry, so we bought some food, sat in the airport food court, and ate before we finally boarded the connecting flight, which would land us in the same location as our mother. We sat patiently on the plane as it rolled up the runway, into the air, and above the clouds. To keep from feeling bored or anxious, I slept and worked some puzzles until finally our plane was preparing to land. My enthusiasm was immeasurable and I could not wait. Gazing out of the window, I saw one of the large wings of the plane in the clouds below us. I watched as the plane began to maneuver down into the clouds, then out and slowly down the runway. I could hardly believe that we had actually arrived. As I looked out of the airplane window, I could see remaining snow on the ground from the snowstorm I had heard about before we left Kansas City. The plane stopped, and finally we were able to get off the plane. As we walked through the airport to go pick up our rental car, I said a short prayer, hoping that everything would go well and that our mother would receive us. I uttered that prayer because I was afraid that my father's warning all those years back might come to be true. Had I really come that far only to find my mother refuse to see any of us? I dreaded the thought that my greatest fear may become my reality. After we had rented the car, we drove to our hotel where we met up with Jerome, who had purchased a separate rental car. As soon as we finished checking into our rooms and freshening up, we all got into one vehicle and drove to the address where our mother was. We did not know what to expect. However, we were all very eager to be on our way to see our mother after 49 years. Our drive to the place where our mother lived was long and traffic was heavy. Other drivers on the road did not provide right-of-way due to everyone trying to make ways for themselves in the hectic traffic. A drive that was supposed to be only 20 minutes turned into an hour long. I thought we would never arrive. We finally pulled up to the boarding home around 4:30 in the afternoon. We parked our car in this very old, unkept neighborhood. Before going in, we sat in the car and contemplated about whether or not she would receive us. We thought maybe she would since Jerome and I had spoken with her on the phone. "Come see me," she had told us. We finally got out of the car and began walking toward the large, old-looking two-story boarding home. We paced carefully in the snow towards the front door. Residents of the home were sitting and standing outside on the front porch and steps, smoking cigarettes. Their coats and clothing were old and tattered. They all turned around and stared at us as we continued towards the house. While we were persisting in the direction of the smokers, I scanned their faces with hopes one of them was my mother. None of them appeared to be her. As we walked in between them to get to the front door, one of the men asked if we had some spare change we could give him. One of my brothers happily reached into his pocket and gave the man some change. We entered the house, walked through a strong foul odor over to the front office and asked for April. A woman named Ashley told us that April had gotten off work at 4 o'clock, so we had just missed her. April originally wanted to be there to make sure our mother, Geneva, would be comfortable with our visit. Since she was not there, Ashley took us back to Geneva's bedroom. The hallway back to her room was dim and not well lit. The less than 1 minute walk to her room felt more like 5 minutes. Finally, I was getting ready to see the face of the woman who carried me in her stomach for 9 months, for whom I had spent most of my life searching. I could not wait to see what she looked like.
If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel.